Good afternoon, class. Now, I know I can't be here on campus at the same time as at Metro E, so I've pulled everything that we were going to do in class today online. I'm going to talk you through it. You're going to write a before and during lesson plan and a vocabulary lesson plan. I've got examples of what to do. I'm going to talk you through it, and I've got some samples you guys can look at so you can see what it is I'm looking for. So honestly, it's really not that difficult. Many of you guys in this particular class, you guys are working in the school, so you kind of have a feel for what a lesson plan looks like. Really, my goal for you guys is that you understand how the strategies work and you're able to kind of walk through what you would do if you were giving these lessons to students in a real classroom. So let me go ahead and share my screen and I'll show you what I've put in here. So if you go to the content folder, you now have a folder that says November 15th, asynchronous class lesson planning. In that folder is pretty much all of what you need, other than going back and looking at your charts that you completed for each of these activities. You may need to go back and look at your before reading strategies chart, your during reading strategies chart, and definitely your vocabulary chart to take a look at the strategies and see which ones you want to use. So the first one I know we've looked at before. This is the before and during reading lesson plan. And here, the first page of the template is for you to describe a before reading lesson. Now, you need to have a text in mind. If you want to use the text you used for your group project, fine, that's great. I know some of you guys didn't get to actually do your projects or your activities with your class when you went into at Metro E. So, and you can kind of focus on some of that if you want to and use that same text, but you don't have to. If you'd rather use something else that's interesting to you or something that you think would benefit maybe somebody more at high school level, you can use whatever text you want, but that text needs to live somewhere. It either lives in your Google Docs folder or it lives on the internet, or you can give me an APA, MLA, or Chicago citation for the text you use for this. That's fine. So your content area, what is that? Is it art? What is the topic you're focusing on? Is it on gardening and plant life or life cycle? It really just depends on what your topic is. You can use what you did in, at Metro E, you don't have to. And then the title of your text. If it's something that you got from AI, fantastic. I have somebody in section 1 who's actually creating a brand new AI story that she's going to use. And that's great. I told her, fine, it's wonderful. If you want to use that, just make sure you save it somewhere so it lives on Google Docs or something so I can access it to take a look at what you did. And then, of course, the TEKS. If you already have TEKS aligned with your project at Metro E and that's what you're focusing on, then you probably know what your TEKS are for this. If you don't, then go to the TEKS link and find the TEKS that best fits what you want to do. Do your best. I'm going to show you the example in a minute and you'll see about what it is I want it to look like. And then what's the strategy name for the before reading strategy? And I want you to use one of the strategies we learned in class. So it's going to be maybe anticipation guide, maybe it's KWL. Tell me what before reading strategy you want to use. And so maybe here I'm going to use KWL. Okay, or anticipation guides. That's where you're going to write it on that line. Then a rationale. Why anticipation guides? There's probably a reason why it fits. Is it fit because it's something that you think is going to be useful for the grade level you're working with? Is it because it really works well with your text? Just explain. And in 1 or 2 sentences, and that's fine. And then finally, description of the activity. Step by step, how are you going to use the particular strategy you're using with your kids? The example here, actually, before I get to the example, let's look at the during reading strategy. And here's the good news. You can use a during reading strategy that I taught in class. Or if you had an activity that you were doing at Metro E or that you intended to do at Metro E that you would rather use in place of a strategy, if it's an activity, then go ahead and describe that here. And you can call it what you need to, but I'll be able to tell if it's a strategy or if it's an activity, but I still want a rationale and I still want a description, the step-by-step of how you're going to implement that with real kids. That's it. That's your before reading and during reading strategy lesson plan. So the example is really just of the, well, actually I have 2 here. I've got a before reading lesson and a during reading lesson in the folder. The first one is my sample, and that's a before reading strategy. And this one is sort of showing you how to use the IEPC on a lesson plan for learning about animal testing in a certain text. So it just kind of shows you, here's a before reading strategy. The student used the IEPC. This is actually from a student sample. And here are the step-by-steps on how that student would use the IEPC with that particular text. And so it's just step-by-steps. There's the rationale. It's one sentence. That's fine. The other example I have here is for a during reading lesson from in the summertime. I had a theater major who did a lesson plan about using guided reading procedure. She's got step-by-steps, and she even included the actual activity sheet that she was intending to use with them. But notice she's got her description of the activity. Here's the name of the strategy she used, and here's her rationale. Guys, 2 sentences is fine. She wrote a lot, and that was great. I mean, she was like one of those above and beyond students, and that's fine. But that's why I kind of thought hers was a good example, because she really was explicit about the actual text she was using, the text she was using, and her topic. So that's a really good example of what it looks like when you're showing the step-by-step instructions on how to use a strategy and pulling in your teaks. Alrighty, so that is your before and during lesson plan, and I know we've talked about it in the past, so I'm hoping this makes perfect sense. But remember, your during reading strategy can just be an activity we're going to be using after the students read or listened to the story that your group had created. The next one's a little different, and that's the vocabulary lesson plan. And it's only different because it has additional things that we need to add because it's vocabulary. And we learned a lot about vocabulary. We learned about how to create a student-friendly definition. We learned about how to use really meaningful use prompts and other devices to help assess students' understanding of the words. So same thing as before. If you want to use the same text, by all means, use the same text. It's going to save you time. But if you don't feel the text you use on the other lesson plan is really, it has enough vocabulary that really you could work with, choose something else. It's up to you what text you use, as long as the text lives somewhere. Let me know where it lives. So content area, same thing as before. Topic, what's your topic? Title of the text. And then 6 words from that text that you feel like students should learn. And strategy name. Maybe the strategy you're going to be using is verbal to visual. That's great. Then a rationale. And the rationale could be something like, well, these, because I'm focusing on science, these words really can be learned well if I have a visual representation of them. Fantastic. Verbal to visual works well for that kind of thing. Write a rationale. 2 or 3 sentences, fine. And then finally, we get to the real meat of what you're doing with the vocabulary lesson plan. Once you've chosen your 6 words, now you're going to create a student-friendly definition and either a meaningful use prompt, sentence completion, or word association for each. Just one. You don't have to write a bunch, just one of your choice. Student-friendly definition, and then one assessment piece that's going to help them really express their understanding of the word. Meaningful use prompt, sentence completion, or word association, your decision. And then description of the activity, very similar to what you did with the other lesson plan. And I also have an example of that in the folder as well. So if you look here, I've got a kinesiology sample from the summer. And this one, it shows you exactly what she did. Here's her words from the text. Now, what she ended up doing was she put the words from the text and the definitions and stuff within that chart, and that's fine. But you don't have to do that. If you want to just have that part below it, and a lot of students did, they included that information down below. It's up to you how you want to do it. She was able to fit in the student-friendly definition and some sort of assessment device within the chart. It's up to you. But then what strategy are you going to use to really teach that vocabulary? She chose knowledge rating scale gave step-by-step instructions on how she would teach it and use it. And then she included another visual, another chart, graphic organizer that went along with it. So I'm hoping this video helps. You have the strategies. Now we're just going to kind of flesh it out so you guys can kind of showcase what you know about a strategy from each one of the 3 types of strategy we learned about: before reading, during reading, and vocabulary. That is it. If you guys have questions or concerns, I would love it if you guys would let me know. I will get back with you. Otherwise, have a wonderful weekend, and I will see y'all soon. I know we have Thanksgiving week next week. I will let you know what I plan on having you do then, because I'm hoping maybe I can get you guys feedback and we can move on. My goal for you guys essentially is that, can you write a lesson plan with a text in your content area that utilizes before, during, and vocabulary strategies? And so this is kind of like we're bringing it all together here toward the end of the semester. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys as soon as we see each other after Thanksgiving. Thank you.